unlike any other medium, you earn a deeper trust with your audience because it's like you know them. You are you are 10,000 people's extra buddy.
Steve Politziner, excited to have you on the FITTEAM show this morning.
Chris, thanks for having me.
Look forward to getting to know you a little bit better and hearing your story.
Honored.
So let's start early on. That's what we like to do, is take people way back to like your childhood, where you're from, where you grew up, and some hobbies you had.
Sure. I grew up in North Brunswick, New Jersey, central New Jersey. Rutgers University, a not super successful sports program right in our backyard, but that was what we had. I grew up about 40 minutes outside of New York City, so all hardcore New York sports fan. As a kid, played sports, loved sports, whether it was pick up basketball or tackle football with my buddies, or Little League baseball or tennis and individual sports. Just always had a passion for them all, playing, watching, and talking about them, which ended up becoming fortunately a part of my career as well.
That's great. So, sports fan, Yankees, Mets?
Yankees. So I'm Yankees, Giants, and then the New Jersey Nets, which I was definitely in the minority versus the Knicks, especially at that time when the Knicks were pretty good as a kid in the 90s. But grew up a Nets fan, diehard basketball fan, and we had Nets season tickets, and that was the closest team to be able to get to. So loved that team as well. Yeah.
So tell me about your college experience.
Yeah, so I went to Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, and when I went there, I went as a business major. What was I going to do? I was going to be the starting shooting guard for the New Jersey Nets, but I never became 6'6" and the athlete that I thought I was going to be. So I had to figure out my real career. I went to Lehigh University. Actually did try to walk onto the basketball team. It did not work out, but gave it an effort, and poured my sources energy into being a college student and having fun, learning. I was a finance major and a communications minor. I did some broadcast work while I was there, broadcast some college basketball games on the radio, some college lacrosse games, so always had a passion for that. I got heavily involved in the intramural program, both playing and then actually helping run it, which was neat. It was an early entree into leadership. And then I also got very involved in my fraternity, where I became president of my fraternity, which also at age 20 was really trial by fire there, learning how to organize and coordinate a group of 50 guys and try to get them mobilized for an effort, whether it was charitable or fundraising or just operations of having a house like that, was really like a great experience.
So as soon as college was over, what was the next step for you?
When college ended, my senior year, I was a bit torn on, do I do the traditional route of going, following my degree in finance and going into banking in Manhattan, where my family was, and I had lots of relationships. Although my best friend my whole life also had a real desire to do something entrepreneurial in sports, and on top of both of those, our real, let's call it our wish or our dream, was to just take a couple years and try to be on-air sports radio hosts, because that was what we loved and where our heart was. I love sports radio, radio in general, talk radio, but sports was really in our blood. So his family had more of a media background. Mine had more of an entrepreneurial, business background. So it was really, neat. At that time, though, it wasn't all organized and together. So, my dad, who's a great inspiration, to me, had launched, or at that point was, deep into his career, and had launched a very successful accounting and consulting practice. So that was a great role model for me. So I decided to go to Manhattan to get into the banking world. I actually worked at what was then Arthur Andersen accounting firm, but in their mergers and acquisitions corporate finance group. So I did that in the late 90s for about a year, and lived in New York and went that route, which I'm always grateful that I did, because I never have any questions of what that would have been. It wasn't for me. I'm glad I did it, but I realized that I needed to do something more entrepreneurial and really something in sports.
So after that, how did you continue us along the path?
Sure. Stayed in touch with my best friend who had opted to go out and purchase some radio stations. He chose Madison, Wisconsin, because when we had been there in college visiting one of our other best friends, just loved the entire experience. Midwest, Big Ten, college football. The vibe there, the energy is awesome. And having gone to a small private university, when I went out to University of Wisconsin-Madison on a game day, it was hard to not be impressed. So Craig went out there. We stayed in touch. I called him about 6 months into my job in corporate finance and said, I don't think this is what I want to be doing long term. And he said, you're welcome to join me as a partner. We're best friends, and we'll work it out. My dad gave me some good advice. It said, you should stay for about a year at your current career, get the full experience, build your resume. You never know how these entrepreneurial ventures are going to work out. And that's what I did. In July of '98, I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, joined my best friend as a partner, building our company, which then maybe was we inherited maybe 25 teammates from the previous ownership, and we're just operating radio stations. So everything from sales, marketing, operations, and engineering to the on-air side. So I was selling by day and doing a 3-hour daily sports talk show by afternoon.
Talk about the behind the scenes, because obviously a lot of people see the end result, but there's so much that goes around behind the scenes and something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about just the behind the scenes here, right? We're sitting in a podcast, and it's a pretty Herculean effort, right, to do it right. Anyone can do it, but to do it right, you got lighting, you got multiple cameras, you got editing equipment, you got backdrops, software, and when you're doing that, when you're transmitting to tens of thousands of kilowatts, it's a completely different deal. So getting up to speed on the business was amazing. I had internships in college, but truly going out to transmitter sites and seeing how seeing how audio is distributed, it's really a pretty amazing endeavor, and it's actually something we try to take our teammates through. So they can truly understand, the power of audio distribution, because you have your studio, and then you have to transmit that, or you have to send that to your transmitter site, which you then have to, send up through your towers for, mass distribution. So really cool. What was also really cool, Chris, was I was in small market Wisconsin, and being able to learn and be able to talk to our advertising partners face to face. And when people would look at you and say, I'm doing a sale this weekend, I'm relying on you to get people through my doors. And me, as an on-air host, had to deliver a really good live read or a really good endorsement. Me, as the account executive, had to write really good copy to ensure that their commercial was effective and impactful, schedule it at the right times. And this was, this is before social media, and when there weren't a lot of choices that people had. So you had to put up really good content, make it compelling, keep folks listening. And then, of course, hopefully encourage them to, go out and patronize our partners. So phenomenal experience in the late 90s and early 2000s on really just how to be in business and how to be in the media business.
You said up to 98, 2000, then what's next?
Sure. So I'm out in Madison, Wisconsin. We're learning really the industry from head to toe. As I mentioned, content, sales, we called content programming there, sales, marketing, operations. As a company, we started to really realize what our competencies were, and we really believe in the power of sports to leverage brands. That's what we do. We utilize the mechanism of sports because sports has such high engagement, is participatory, is primary, it's the main thing people are doing. It's not background noise. So what we really felt was, if we can put compelling content, whether it's on the radio or digitally or visually, then it's going to ensure that people are going to watch that in a way that's highly committed and engaging, which in turn is going to benefit our advertising partners. Look, I mean, we're talking here, and we have a backdrop, and there's products that can be placed and things along those lines. But the beauty about audio is, unlike any other medium, you earn a deeper trust with your audience because it's like them. You are you are 10,000 people's extra buddy. And when you develop that kinship, then when you're talking about something or you're endorsing something, people are more apt to patronize because it's authentic, and you can tell that when you're doing, when you're on radio. So we're out there, really realize the power of sports, and it was an interesting time because we did pick up some non-sports stations and kind of really trying to figure out our way. We ended up buying a radio station in Rockford, Illinois, and had the ability to align with ESPN. And we syndicated the radio show that I was doing, both in Madison, Wisconsin, and then Rockford, Illinois. And it was like overnight, because our name went from Madison Sports Radio to ESPN Radio. There was like a shot of credibility that we received, and the light for us really went off there and said, I think that ESPN is a phenomenal brand, to hitch our wagons to. So from there, I think that was an important time where we recognized we really believe in sports. If you're going to believe in sports, why not work with the most powerful name in sports in the world, which is, hands down ESPN. It has the highest brand recognition of almost any product in existence, not just in sports, as well as positive connotation. From there, in the early 2000s, we talked about where do we go from here. Mm-hmm. And West Palm Beach was actually the largest market in the country that did not have a sports radio station at the time. So West Palm kept growing in population. It had become a top 50 market. A lot of what had gone on in West Palm up until the early 2000s was sort of an extension of Miami. But with everyone that was moving to West Palm from the Northeast and Midwest, really had developed its own identity. People told us, you can't do a sports radio station in West Palm because no one's a fan of anything. And I said, no, it's that no one's a fan of the same thing. It's that people are deep sports fans here. You know that. Look at the way you guys have gotten involved in sports, in the community. And by the way, congratulations. It was going to be congrats to you either way, whether it's the Astros or the Nationals. But, congratulations. Awesome for FITTEAM Ballpark of the Palm Beaches. You're looking very smart right now. So the thing is we looked at this community and said, there's amazing sports fans and there's amazing sports stories. We want to be the place where people can share and center them. And I actually think one of the beauties about being in Palm Beach County, as we both operate business here, is that this is the place for really the most educated sports fans in the country. Because if you're in a more provincial market, say you're in Detroit or in Milwaukee where we're headquartered, or somewhere else, even though we live in a much more transient society today, the majority of people are going to be fans from the local team. That's just heritage and history. Right. If you're here, you're going to be able to be a fan of your team. You're also going to get a healthy dose of a lot of other things. So you have great tennis fans and golf fans and equestrian fans and marine fans, and then you also have fans from boating and fishing, and then of course you have your college football fans and your SEC passion and your Northeasterners who love baseball, and the NFL transcends. There's just so many great things. So we came here. I'm proud to say many of our on-air talent, including Evan Cohen, who's the longest tenured on-air sports personality in this market, been on for now going on 16 years. We have some phenomenal local talent, Josh Cohen as well, I know you know. And then this market has been phenomenal to us. West Palm has, I should say. The two local broadcast TV stations, Fox and WPTV, asked us to take over their sports department. So in a very rare twist, the radio operator actually operates the sports department. So as you know, we anchor, broadcast, shoot, produce everything that you see on your broadcast news. And we take a more local approach with that. Again, because this isn't just Miami North, we don't just show a Dolphins highlight. Mm-hmm. Instead, what we do is we talk about the stories that are going on in sports in our community, stories like the marathon, stories like high school accomplishments. We live in such a fertile environment. This is one of the most fertile environments for producing and attracting athletes, not only because of the weather that we have, but it's the facilities, and it's people want to be where there's people like them, and there's lots of everything, that you can relate to here. So it makes it really neat. So West Palm's been phenomenal. We also launched ESPN Deportes, ESPN's Hispanic sports radio alternative, which is great where you look at the growing population here. I know also for you guys, entering that market is a real opportunity. We see the same. And then we launched a college football bowl game here, which I know you're familiar with, the Cheribundi Boca Raton Bowl. We are now heading into year 6. It's been identified as really the most successful pre-Christmas bowl game of the dozen or so. And again, the community's been amazing at supporting it. We always have a very compelling matchup. And because of the success of this game, it's been moved from ESPN to ABC, where we will be on ABC in the Dream College window spot of Saturday at 3:30 on ABC on December 21st. So that's a little bit about this market, which I ran for a long time. As our company has grown, I've given up the day-to-day here because we've continued to grow in other markets, which, if you like, I could talk a little bit about.
Sure, you want to get into this? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. So from there, on the story, I'll take it quick. Home office in Milwaukee. As we started and launched there, my partner, our CEO, is based there. I'm here, and we have radio stations where we operate radio in Cleveland, most recently ESPN Chicago. So we're affiliated or the play-by-play home from everything from Notre Dame to the Cleveland Browns to the Green Bay Packers to the Milwaukee Brewers to the Miami Heat, and then deep relationships with many, many more. Digitally is a huge focus. So a few years ago, we partnered with ESPN, and we are the representative of their digital inventory. So if you go to ESPN.com or the ESPN app around the country and you see local businesses marketing, that is what our team does as well, and we do that throughout the country. So a lot of different endeavors going, and we're really moving to where the sports fans are and where they're consuming, and they're consuming on radio, and they're consuming it digitally, and that's great for our advertising partners.
Absolutely. So we hear all this success, great things happening. Tell us a story or some struggles or challenges that you faced.
Oh, I mean, we could do a longer podcast on our failures. I promise. I promise on that. So we have, we definitely you learn if there's only winning and learning. So each experience we're hopefully getting something out of. If it is not profit and value, it's going to be value in another way. So. A few different things, immediately come to mind. First is when you're building a culture, when you're starting out and you're looking to identify, hey, we want to reach out to local businesses. What's the easiest way to do that? Well, let's get some people that have been successful at doing that. Well, just because someone was successful in sales doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be successful in our culture. And we're extremely culture first, extremely people first. We have our 5 core values of be honest, work hard, over deliver, listen, and follow through that I believe all of our 200 plus teammates could recite like that. And it truly is not aspirational. It is how we live and behave at Good Karma. We've learned the hard way on that in terms of someone who may be a great fit somewhere else may not be a great fit with us. And we liken ourselves a little bit to the Patriots, the Oakland A's, some of the teams that have been able to see value in places where other people don't necessarily see value and been able to turn that into very long-term sustainable careers. But so everything from learning from hiring. We did a foray for a few years. In our early days, we had actually a shopping show on our radio stations. And literally, it's a very small town ordeal where our team would reach out to local businesses, say local restaurants or hotels, and they would give us gift certificates, which we would sell at half price. We would retain the value of the sale. They would get the customer who would, and it was a marketing cost for them at a discount. And we did that operated for many years. And then we got a call from a company that said, we're looking at what you're doing. We'd like to buy you out on it. And, at this point, we had named it FLATO, which stood for Less All Things Online. And, a couple years later, so we were like, we're going to really go down the sports route. They just want our database and, to kind of take the name out. So they did. And a few years later, we're watching CNBC, and we see this guy who just talked about his company that had just been had a market valuation of $2 billion. And we're like, that's the guy that bought our thing. And that was Groupon. So, maybe we should have gone that route, but I can't say that we ever would have discovered what he discovered. So that was, a miss. We've made some other investments in technology, Chris. Before we went into the ESPN digital route, there was a period where with the growth of digital and the growth of satellite, we said, I'm not sure that radio stations are are where we should be putting our resources, to buy a good radio signal, be it a good FM or a strong AM in a big market. I mean, you're still talking millions, 10, 15, 20 million, depending on the market, because of because of because of a few things, cash flows, historical pricing, things like that. So we took a foray into some other businesses, and we went into the Verizon wireless business. Our feeling is nothing is more important than our phones to us, yet the experience at buying them is horrific. And we have business customers that all are doing, lines for their employees, and yet they have to deal with a middling corporate experience where one rep is literally repping 5,000 businesses at a time. So we thought we could put our competencies of being best-in-class operators of ESPN, which is what ESPN calls us, the best-in-class operators of their brands, for like the bowl games, radio, audio, digital, and do that at the retail level. And we always had staff because we have a great internship program, and oftentimes we don't have enough places to put them. And the feeling is if we have people go on the floor for 2 years, deal in retail, what an amazing experience that'll be in customer service, which will only allow them to be that much better with us. But what we realized is ESPN's a great partner, and we realized that even more so in partnering with some other brands. It was difficult, and ultimately we didn't share the same vision culturally. And it's also hard competing with yourself. When you're in the cell phone business, you can have a cell phone store, but your corporate parent can have one across the street, and they can offer a million things that you're not permitted to offer as a franchisee. It was an expensive learning experience, especially the 2 stores that we owned in Manhattan, particularly. But it was also great because, again, each time it's winning and learning, and we really learned, some great things there that led to some other things. So, anyone that doesn't tell you that they didn't have failures, I'd like to meet that guy.
So you have so many accomplishments. What are some of the things you're most proud of, or have most pride in the things that you accomplish?
First and foremost, from our pride is just that we built something that can provide long-term, sustainable, meaningful careers for people. We're about 200 teammates or so, now, and when I look at them and I see that they've decided to hitch their wagons and trust us, and we've decided to make the investment in training, resources, growth, and watch people go. Literally a third of our company comes from our internship program. So we have people that when they were 18, 19 in college and receiving college credit, thinking I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go do something else, raised their hands and said, I'd like you to keep me in mind if there are ever opportunities. Or we said to them, if there are opportunities, would you like us, to reach out? And that was 10, 12, years ago. So to be able to provide careers, to be able to provide opportunities for people to move and have something rewarding, that's on the teammate side. And I love the way we've been able to impact businesses, because the media and the marketing world is murky. It is not always on the up and up. It is challenging. And to be a marketer, like to be in your shoes and have to figure out, where do I invest my dollars? Who makes sure that my commercial is seen? How do I know? Well, who's reporting? Who's showing me? We really strive to be the guys, and that's us, and that's in partnership with ESPN, which is in partnership with Disney, to be operate in that world-class attitude. Specific accomplishments would be things like launching a college football bowl game. Absolutely, incredible. Having ESPN and Disney entrust one of their most precious assets of ESPN Chicago to us, which we now operate for them on a lease basis. We run that, the market there. So in Wisconsin, we launched the Wisconsin Sports Awards, which is one day where we have everyone from Aaron Rodgers to, a high school women's basketball team being honored, and have the biggest athletes, the biggest names, coaches, alum, come out for, a day like that. So I think just using our platform of sports to do good and, make a difference.
What some goals you have for the future that you'd want to share with us?
I was just talking about this with our Chicago team yesterday, that either we're just not that bright, or we've gotten lucky, but we are not the in 5 years this. I think we're in 5 years. We have to recognize that the world is changing fast, and our number one goal is to stay nimble, to change with it. Part of the reason why why we are operating ESPN Chicago is because ESPN is a massive company and run by Disney and enormously successful company, but a company of that magnitude, with hundreds of thousands of employees, can't necessarily always move at that same pace. That led to opportunities. For us, it's about being in the right spot to get those, to be the lone company that represents ESPN digital inventory on the street, on like a brick and mortar day-to-day business. We pinch ourselves. People would have vied for that, just like major national radio operators would have vied to have ESPN Chicago. So by doing things the right way, it opens up, new opportunities for us. I can tell you, we are going to continue to be where the sports fans are. We're going to continue to offer the best customer service. At Lambeau Field, we have our homes, which we call the Tundra Trio. We just had Monday Night Football broadcast from there, last week. It's become a really preeminent hospitality experience, not only for local businesses, but for the visiting teams themselves to entertain their traveling parties. So for us, I would think that we will continue to expand, certainly our digital footprint, open to radio, open to hospitality, and open to things that can allow our advertising partners the most efficiency for their hard-earned advertising dollar, which ensures their message is seen, heard, engaged with, and remembered.
So you talked about your best friend. Who's some other people behind the scenes? Anytime someone's successful, there's always people around them. You don't see some of those people. Who's some people that you mentioned your parents as well too? Who's some people that have helped get you to where you're at today?
Yeah, sure. Start, my parents, my family. My dad's my greatest influence, Phil Politziner, who he himself launched a enormously successful accounting and consulting firm. Took from 2 people at the beginning to 1,200 people when he retired from day-to-day operations, and it's grown even more since. So certainly there, and my mom's been supportive. My 2 sisters, my brothers-in-laws. I'm the youngest, so we have a nice size family with nieces and nephews. So that's been great. My wife Stacy, incredibly our rock. My schedule can get crazy and travel, but she is so supportive and understanding, and especially with my 2 boys, Drew and Evan. That's what you're always doing it for. That's what you're always thinking about. I'm still committed to, in my head, I'm still going to be, that NBA guy, maybe not as a shooting guard, but maybe as a coach. So the way I accomplish that is through coaching youth sports. So I coach my kids, I cheer for my kids, I caddy for my kids. So those are all really meaningful things. My partner, Craig Karmazin, is my best friend. Been best friends since first grade. He's an amazing CEO. He's the CEO. I'm the president. We have an amazing relationship. It starts and stops with Craig, and any business starts and stops with a great leader, an amazing role model. Evan Cohen, I mentioned earlier, has been a dear friend. West Palm Beach would not be the successful market it is. I really believe that Evan has helped influence sports in West Palm Beach to really help bring out the sports fan in people and allow people to be comfortable and giving them a forum to cheer and root for their team and to collaborate, together on that. Some of my best friends are still my business partners. Tim, Keith, Eric, Sam. These are guys that have been in the trenches with, for years and years and years, and have worked for. Stephanie Prince is our market manager now in West Palm. She's one of those examples I gave of someone who started very entry level, and now to see her winning 40 under 40 and being recognized by national industry publications like Radio Inc., as well as locally like South Florida Business Wealth and South Florida Business Journal. I'm really, honored. And then just mentors. The list would go on and on and on, but I've been fortunate to develop a great network of mentors, everybody from Dennis Grady from the Chamber of the Palm Beaches, who embraced me when I first moved here, to in 2003 to West Palm Beach, to Eric Palms, the CEO of the Orange Bowl, people with ESPN, and people in the local markets who have been just incredible influences and given me things to continue to look up for. Ken Kennerly, who we share relationship with, people in the sports business who I've been able to see, accomplish great things. And, there would be too many to name, but I can guarantee that I would not be where I am today without having those role models and those mentors around me.
You mentioned role models, and some people look up to you and want to get involved in what you're doing. For anyone, any entrepreneur, what advice do you have for them that have a dream? Like you mentioned, you had a dream, you just got started. What advice do you have for them?
So the first thing, I'm very pragmatic. So if you have a dream, that's great. I love people say, go ahead, follow your dreams. Just make sure that you have that dream all the way filled out, including your business plan. The dream needs to be funded, and you need to also understand what is your runway. How long do I have on this? Because all the time, I'm sure you get more and more me, Chris. I get a lot of ideas. I know lots of people have a lot of ideas, and then my first question to them usually is, talk to me about your business plan and how are you going to grow that. And I try to dig into like the pain points and the warts, because there's millions of great ideas, and tons of those have been left on the cutting room floor, not because they weren't a good idea. There wasn't a great plan of execution and operation. Investing in training, communication, resources, and having a timeline, to me, like are all the difference. And you need great people. As more and more businesses consolidate and more things get programmatic, computerized, to me what that means is there's opportunities to land great people who, for other reasons, really more for like efficiency reasons, other companies are looking, to go away from. We look at that as opportunity. I think right now is the best time to get in, and unemployment is very low. It's a very competitive time, but I think it is the best time to go out and find people that want to be part of a culture, and want to be part of a culture where as we get bigger, we're always trying to get smaller. We're always trying to stay nimble. So my advice to those people as well is when you figure out, you have that dream and you have it, you're getting that off the ground. You want to see towards the future, but you have to stay nimble enough to be able to change. In the digital age we're in today, you have to be able to stop on a dime and pivot in another direction, and to make sure that you're set up to be able to do so.
That's great. What last words do you have?
Well, I mean, it's weird for me to be in this seat as, doing a daily radio show for 10 years and being in broadcasting. I'd like to turn this on you because, as anyone that knows Chris knows, he's an incredibly humble guy, incredibly, not a spotlight guy, yet runs, enormously successful business. Even the university you went to, the School of Hard Knocks, the College of Life, I think it says, as it says on your LinkedIn. So why don't you share with me a little bit about what's made you so successful, or what is your key to growing what has been an incredible growth with the FITTEAM brand?
I would just say continuing to work hard, continuing to learn, continuing to fail forward. And I've never had a lot of talent, never done a lot of things right, but just keep working, keep moving forward, and keep wanting more, and getting around people that are a lot smarter than I am and learning from them. And that's what I'm doing with the FITTEAM show. Nice.
Well, I think you're shorting yourself because you're a smart guy, and I couldn't agree with you more about putting a great pool of talent around you. But, I mean, you guys going from local to national to international, it's really, an amazing story. And same thing, I'm sure others would want to replicate it. What do you tell people is the biggest difference between your success and others that have failed, maybe trying to do something similar?
That's a great question, and I get that. I get asked that quite a bit, and I think it's just sometimes it's a little bit luck, but also just persevering and burning the boat. Like there's not a plan B. It's like this is going to work, and that mindset I think will always push us forward.
I think we share that same thing. There's not a backup plan. The plan is this is the plan,
right,
and we're going to put all of our resources and our energies. And when you grow, it's the boat. To use your point, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we need to make sure, though, we can turn that thing and do it where everyone can, at the same time, gets the oars going, and we're all going there. And we spend an inordinate amount of our time just communicating. We have more ongoing communication with our team now. I touch more people now when we're at the size we are now than I touched 10 years ago. Literally, because we use training, ongoing training across all of our sectors: marketing, digital, radio, sales, content, There's ongoing communication, Skype, podcast, audio that is sent out, and taking advantage of today's, even just our company social media, internal, just so everyone can see what everyone's doing, everyone's going on, and just keeping that bond strong.
We appreciate you joining us today, and we appreciate having you on and learning from you and working with you, and it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's been mine, and really thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing what we both do in the years ahead.